Welcome back, my friends, to the podcast that never ends. Yes, this is the Blue Day podcast, and for Chelsea fans everywhere, every day is a Blue Day. And I am your host, Keith Lawrence, and joining me this week is Adam Robinson from the Eastern Blue Supporters Club. He's back on the show this week, and we are going to talk. There's only one thing to talk about. We are going to talk about the match that happened over the weekend between Chelsea and Tottenham. Battle at the Bridge Part 2. We're going to talk about that. We are hopefully not going to make it too much about the snake of a ref that is Anthony Taylor. Adam, welcome back on the show. Firstly, how are you? And secondly, have you stopped swearing after the football yet?
Hi, Keith. Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. And you?
I'm relatively okay. My mood will probably change once we talk about the fiasco that happened yesterday, but I want to sort of try and get both sides to the story if possible. Sometimes there's three sides to the story, but we'll talk about sort of the referee, we'll talk about Tottenham, but also we'll sort of talk about how we played as well. But you went to the game, Adam. Unfortunately, I was preoccupied, but you went to the game. Just firstly, before we talk about the match itself, for the first home game of the season, where a lot of expectation and a lot of hope and hype, what was the atmosphere like?
I thought it was really good. It's probably one of the best atmospheres that the Bridge has been for quite some time, I would say. You also always got the sort of, Matthew Harden and the shed, like sort of creating a bit of atmosphere, but sometimes, yeah, like against your teams, your mid-table teams, you struggle. But yesterday was really, really good atmosphere. Obviously, first game of the season, sun's out, everybody's been in the pub and had a couple of beers probably before they went in, and but yeah, everybody was up for it, which was great.
And where did you sit? What stand was you in for this one?
Yeah, it was in the shed lower. So we sort of had about 35 of us went down, and most of us were in the shed lower together. So that was quite good.
Nice. So we're going to talk about sort of the game briefly, and then we'll talk about certain incidences and certain players. But you talk about the atmosphere. There was a few games that I went to last season where the atmosphere was very dull, and there was a lot of moans and groans about how we was playing or the style of football. For it being the first game of the season and first home game of the season, excuse me, did you sort of see any difference in how we played or how we set up from last season, albeit with certain new players that have come in and players that have left the club?
Yeah, I think like even going back like even 1 week to Everton, when we was in the pub and you see the lineup come out, everybody's like, "Well, are we going as a four?" You've got Loftus-Cheek who came on Everton, in the right wing back position initially, and it's like, is he going to play there again ahead of James obviously dropped into the three instead of Aspie, or are we going to go as a four? But I think that worked quite well down the right hand side. To be fair, with Reece and Loftus Cheek combining, it was sort of we got quite a lot of joy down there, sort of especially in the first half of the game. So I think that worked really well. Yeah, and I think that the new signings as well, like Koulibaly, he was, I thought, great. It's going to take a little bit of time, obviously, to adjust, like anybody will do to the Premier League. But I thought he actually had a good game. He's obviously not afraid to have a go either, which is sometimes one of Chelsea's downfalls. We never actually just have a shot. And obviously, what a great volley he scored as well for the first goal.
Fabulous finish, wasn't
Yeah,
it? I mean,
yeah,
a
yeah.
striker would have loved that.
Exactly. Maybe we should give him a number 9 shirt and put him up front.
No, because we would have cursed him. If we give him the number 9 shirt, he'll end up having a dry spell and he won't score for 2 years. I was impressed with Koulibaly yesterday, albeit I was watching it on the telly. He's not a Rudiger. He's completely different to him, but I think him and Silva have got a good understanding already. But
Hmm.
I can see why Chelsea are trying to get another central defender because both don't have blistering pace, especially if a ball's going behind them. There was a few times yesterday when, in particular, when Kane was pretty much 1v1, it was just a hopeful ball gone up. Kane's gone in between them. Thankfully, he scuffed it. Weren't even a shot on target. But things like that, I think, against the top sides, we could have a problem with, which is probably one of the reasons why he's going for Fofana as well. But Koulibaly, so far, I'd say is a very decent replacement for Rudiger at this moment in time. What, Adam, if you obviously you had a good view being in the shed lower, what did you make of Cucurella's performance? Because a lot of money was spent on him. Over the total fee could rise up to over 60 million. A lot of people I've spoken to on social media yesterday and today are a little bit concerned that not for him, but for Ben Chilwell, bearing in mind that Cucurella could be the permanent left wing back, or could he drop into the free defence and have Ben Chilwell at left wing back? What did you make of Mark's performance?
Yeah, I think he had a good game as well, to be fair. And I'd sort of agree that, especially as Chilwell still sort of like seems to be regaining his match fitness, he's featured a bit, but not for the full 90 minutes yet. I think it's going to give him a chance to sort of almost sustain his position potentially in that left wing back role. And if he doesn't put a foot wrong, it's sort of almost an argument when, why change it unless there's a reason to. Obviously, Chilwell's a great player as well, and he's obviously been unfortunate with his injury and missed quite a bit of last season. But I think again yesterday and at Everton, I think he had a really good game when he played, and yeah, I think he's a good signing to be fair. And certainly, if he can drop into the three as well, then that just gives us another option, doesn't it, if we need to?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting as well with him. It was great going forward, but it's even quite telling the fact that he's actually not bad coming back either. He's not like, with all due respect to Marcus Alonso or an Emerson, who is better going forward than dropping back. Cucurella can do both. So far, he can do both, and he did well with that at Brighton. But you mentioned Loftus-Cheek on the right wing back role, and he actually had a very good game, and a lot of people praised him for his performance. Do you think that could be maybe a more permanent position for Ruben? Because we've seen people like Victor Moses become a right wing back. We saw Pedro fill in that role as well. Do you think we could see Loftus-Cheek in there? Because really, as a midfielder, with the other options we've got, I don't think he's going to get much game time in the central midfield role.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there's not many players you pick over Reece James in that position. Even though obviously again he can drop into the sort of the three like he did yesterday. But yeah, I think like I said, Loftus-Cheek had a great game, but whether or not you'd play him there all the time, it probably depends who you're going to be playing. In different tactical situations. But yeah, on yesterday's performance, obviously great. But I still think Reece James has got to be really commanding that role. To be fair, up and down the wing on the right hand side for us.
Now, if we go into midfield, Mount, who it's it does amaze me sometimes when Mason Mount's name comes up. Some people who are not Chelsea supporters think he's rubbish. Chelsea supporters obviously think differently, but Mount's performances, he hasn't taken games by the scruff of the neck, not for a long, long time. And I was expecting big things from him this season. You look at the situation now with him, he's not the young boy that came through under Lampard anymore. He's matured, he's grown up. What did you make of his performance? Was you expecting a little bit more from him, albeit being the first home game, or do you think that as the season wears on, he'll get himself more fluid in the way Tuchel's playing?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think everybody's got obviously massive hopes, and it's sort of been banded around as potential future captain because you can see on the pitch he obviously lives and breathes Chelsea, like no matter what his sort of performance is like. But he's the first one in there to get involved if something's happening or to stick up for his teammates, and you can tell he obviously loves the club. But and I guess it's a bit of a cliche in a way. You can think and that's the same for a lot of players. But he's played a lot of games over the last sort of 18 months, obviously. Uh, and I don't think he maybe isn't probably performing to the level that we maybe would expect quite. I'm not saying he's playing badly, but I'm sure there is more to give as we go on through the year for him. Um, but yeah, I think he's obviously one of our, how would I put it? I guess he's like one of our sort of, he's come through the academy. He sort of is Mr. Chelsea really in a way. If you look at the squad that we've got now, we've had like a lot of people sort of come and go, and there's obviously still a few that have been there for a long time. But it's almost like yesterday, you can see that message to the players had got into them that this is a big game. Like you can't lose basically this game because it's Tottenham and they're one of our rivals. And like he to me would be one of the people who would be like banging that sort of drum in the dressing room to instill it into the people who have just joined into the squad. So yeah, I'm sure there's more to come there, but I think what he adds to the other side of it as well is massive.
Would you say that he's this generation's version of a John Terry? And what I mean by that is how John was as a player, and for those that were lucky enough to see him live, he was a warrior in defence, but he wasn't just a defender, he was also a leader of men. And he would rile up the players, he would get the players pretty much locked together and go, this is what it means to Chelsea. This is what Chelsea is all about. Do you think Mason can maybe be that guy that Chelsea need? Because when John Terry left, it was a case of who's there now to be that Mr. Chelsea. Do you think Mason could be that particular person?
Yeah, I think he's definitely got the sort of credentials to become someone like that. Obviously, John obviously is, arguably the great, one of the boys, definitely one of the greatest ever players to play for Chelsea, and what he done for the club, obviously, probably is going to be hard to replicate for anybody else. But I'm sure that I think Mason's definitely got the potential there to go on and become like a big leader and a big influence in the dressing room, and also like a link between the almost like the team and the fans in a way. Like he gets Chelsea, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You can see it on the pitch. Like okay, so sometimes doesn't go to plan. Some matches, but he'll still come over and like will appreciate like the fans being there and supporting the team, and he gets. I think he's like it feels like he's one of us, if you know what I mean in a way.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you just have to sort of look at his profile, when you've seen pictures of him in the old Chelsea centenary kit when he was, watching Chelsea as a kid growing up, and then he come up through the academy. Hopefully, we'll see more of people like Mason Mount. I know you've got Harvey Vale, just for example, coming through as well, who's doing quite well in the academy. One player who we signed in the summer that some people are a little bit sceptical on because of where he's going to fit in, Raheem Sterling. 2 games now, hasn't scored. He had a wonderful chance yesterday, which he blazed over. I still don't know how he blazed it over because it was harder to miss. But how do you think he's fared, Raheem Sterling? Because didn't pay a lot of money for him, considering how much he's won and where he's come from. But do you think Raheem's added a little bit extra that we've perhaps been lacking from last season?
I think in the current situation, we haven't got we've got Brozier, but we haven't got a sort of first team recognised 20 goal a year man at the moment, have we? And it's we've got to look elsewhere for goals. And he's definitely going to add, goals to the tally. He's proven that wherever he's been, Liverpool, Man City, that he can do that. Obviously for England as well. So I think he definitely adds to it. This is going to be interesting how we obviously make it. We've got a lot of players who can play in those positions. You know what I mean? So it's how Tuchel's going to make it work is going to be interesting and probably try and keep them all happy. So rather him than me on that one, but. Yeah, I think definitely a good signing for, like you say, what we didn't break the bank for him, compared to some money that has been banded about for other players. So I think definitely worth what was paid for him, and definitely will add to the team.
Now, looking at the tactics that was implemented by Tuchel, I thought the way we played, there was some lovely stuff in between defence and attack. How quick we played the ball and we used the width quite well. But we scored first with Koulibaly and we looked quite comfortable with the 1-0 lead. We looked quite in control. And then we're going to talk about the first incident now. Where you was in the shed lower, I'm assuming you was probably one of nearly 40,000 that thought it was a foul by Bentancur on Kai Havertz, and then subsequently later on in different phases of play, Tottenham would score. Did you think at that point that the game changed and the atmosphere changed to the point where it was becoming quite hostile a little bit? Because when I was watching it on the telly, I had it quite loud. The atmosphere was bubbling just a little bit to the extreme a little bit because of Anthony Taylor's incompetence again, and even with the linesman, because the linesman had for me, a better view of that challenge than Anthony Taylor. Anthony Taylor only saw Bentancur win the ball, but he didn't see the follow through. He didn't see the other leg catch Kai to the point where that's where Kai got fouled. But the linesman's right on the other side. He's got it. He can clearly see. Didn't raise his flag at all. What is the point of having the linesman there? The other points I wanted to sort of raise to you, Adam, and I'll get your thoughts on it. When the ball's then played towards the box, Jorginho has the ball and he tries to do a back flick or some kind of stupid bloody flick in his own box. Why, I have no idea. And then when Højbjerg shoots, Richarlison is in an offside position. He's partly in line with Mendy's, blocking Mendy's view. And lo and behold, the goal's given. What was your instant reaction from that? And then have you seen the images or the videos back? And do you still stand by your initial thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think at the time you think it's a definite foul. He looks like he just sort of was, like you say, taking him out basically. Even though he looks like, like say to Taylor, maybe it looks like he did get the ball from where he was because the ball obviously changed direction, with the contact type thing. But it's definite foul. Yeah, what Jorginho was doing, who knows? Like, it's a bit of a different level. But when I was at school and we played football, we always got told, if in doubt, get it out, basically.
Yep.
So you don't start messing around with it in your 18-yard box, when
You would never see a Man City or a Liverpool player do that.
no, it's just
And that's the difference that we're talking about in terms of standards and in terms of what makes you a winner to then that. And the
yeah,
fact that the fact that he was being pressed anyway from behind, he had a Tottenham player behind him. He's trying to drag the ball back. Surely somebody would have called and said, "Don't bloody do that. Just oof the poxy thing." I just thought it was mind-boggling why he did that. All he had to do was maybe do a side pass to Silva or whoever. It was, from watching it on the telly, it was a very, very strange decision. And even when he did lose the ball, his late reaction to close Højbjerg down.
yeah. I've obviously I've watched today or Match the Day, and you get a better view, of course, on the TV, but you still can't work out what he was going through his mind, like how he thought he was going to get out of that situation by doing that. When, like you say, he was under obviously pressure from sort of a couple of Tottenham players, and just seems a bit of a strange decision to try and pull something off like that. Okay, fair enough if you're in the other opponent's box, like or in the sort of final third of the pitch, but not when you're in your own 18-yard box under pressure. But yeah, I think when it comes to Richarlison, you can sort of like, they're trying to say, oh, okay, he could see, Mendy could see the ball, but actually, okay, he might have seen the ball when it was actually struck, but as soon as the direction of the ball then goes towards to the corner of the goal, that's when Richarlison's blocking it. So effectively, he can't track that ball for like how many, 1 second or whatever it was but that's like in football and the pace it's played, that's a long time, isn't it? That for that split second, he loses sight of the ball when it goes obviously behind Richarlison, and then they obviously score. So to my mind, obviously you've got the foul. Okay, you could argue that was 45 seconds, whatever it was before the goal went in, but then you've got the offside as well. So how they can sort of both be missed is a bit boggling, especially when it was supposed to be reviewed by the VAR. You think what is the point of them if they're not going to pick up sort of obvious decisions like that, really?
And why didn't Anthony Taylor, if he knew that there was an issue? Because you saw as soon as Conte went nuts, and we'll talk about that later, when he went nuts for the equaliser and then Chelsea got Tuchel and his staff got pissed off, you can tell that even by watching it on telly, there was something wrong, that the referees made a mistake. Why didn't he go into the touch side monitor? I have no idea. And even Mike Dean, who was in charge of VAR, again, he's another controversial name that should have retired years ago, but he's still in the bloody game. They just saw nothing wrong with it. Just didn't see nothing wrong with it. And at that point, you're thinking, here we go again.
Yeah, you're right, aren't you? Like basically, if you think about you can sort of tell, obviously, okay, people will appeal for things that they think they might have a chance of getting, but they know that they don't deserve, but you could tell by the reaction of obviously the players and obviously the staff and stuff that there was something obviously not quite right in that,
Yeah.
given of that goal. So as you would think as a sort of hopefully a reasonably intelligent human being, you would think, well, maybe I should go and check that. You've got the resources there to go and do it. At a drop of a hat, you can go and watch it. And even if he then decides, okay, that's fine, at least he's satisfied himself that he thinks that's correct. If you know what I mean,
Yeah.
rather than it's almost like it's obviously yeah, it's quite obvious that it's not correct because obviously the reaction. So why not go and check
Well, that's what
and
it's there
just
for. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And obviously he should be guided by, if he thinks it's right and obviously in his head or whatever, but he should be guided by obviously Mike Dean to say, you should go and review that.
Mm.
If he doesn't want to make that call himself, then go and ask him to have a look himself. And at least at that point, even though we're not going to agree with it, but at least you would feel a bit more satisfied that he's actually thought about it and checked. Do you know what I mean? Rather than it
More the
just
fact he's
feels,
done his job properly. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Because it's not like, okay, it's obviously like we've dropped 2 points, but at the end of the season, you don't know what the difference. Obviously, it's a long way to go yet to be talking about that, but you don't know what 2 points could be the difference between at the end of the season, do you? And over the course of the season, maybe it evens itself out. I don't know. We can only hope. But
We'll talk
um,
about the ramifications of it sort of afterwards because this isn't the first time we've conceded in injury time at home. But euphoria struck. James scored a cracking goal. It was a good sort of piece of play by Chelsea when we would win the ball in Spurs' half and we were quickly to switch the play and James was in a great position. Sterling caught him out quite well. When the goal went in, just absolute carnage in terms of fans going nuts and James went into the corner flag. Sorry, into the corner of the Matthew Harding. Thomas Tuchel looks like he was good about to join him. Everything just went crazy. Did you have a good view of that goal and how big of a confidence boost is that for James, bearing in mind that he did, for much of last season, miss it due to injury?
yeah, obviously we're at the other end. You still can see that it was a great move and he finished it well. And I think it's we were talking about Sterling's contribution as well. Okay, he didn't score that goal, but he played sort of a big part in it as well. Like a nice ball that he laid off for James to finish. But yeah, everybody went nuts. Everybody's hugging because it's like after what had happened a little while ago. It's you're now in two
You
one
feel
and you sort of
justice has been done. Yeah.
yeah, and you're feeling like we're actually playing quite well and could actually go on. You're going to go on and hopefully win this game now. But yeah, I think obviously I do James. James a world of good to score. To score. And hopefully that's going to be one of many this season. He seems to have be struggling a bit with his set piece and stuff like going back. Like, I know we're reviewing Spurs today, but like going back to last week at Everton, some of the corners and stuff and that he was taking. You think that they were sort of hitting the first man quite a lot, or a couple they just went over the last man. So hopefully it'll just boost his confidence a bit and because he's got a terrific right foot, and some of the free kicks he has scored and stuff like that is and crosses he's put in and stuff like that. He's top player, but I hope he'll just give him a little bit of a confidence boost to go on and get a few more goals because we're going to need them from all over the pitch this year.
Yeah. And as you say, because the fact we haven't got a striker, you're looking at where else can we get the goals. Havertz is not a centre forward. That's been evident for a while now. I don't think Sterling's one that can lead the line. He's a good player. He can contribute to goals, but he's not a centre forward. And then you're looking at who else can come in with rumours of Ziyech on his way out, Hudson-Odoi on his way out. Christian Pulisic, it seems, is not in favour. Are we looking at Jorginho being in double figures for penalties and then Chilwell and James scoring from fullback? So Chelsea are 2-1 at this point. You're thinking this is going to be a great result. We've put Tottenham in their place because Tottenham normally get battered everywhere they go. And then
Nice one.
then the controversy starts. Then the issues start. Before we do discuss that, Kante came off. He was forced off with an injury. From the early prognosis, it don't seem to be a good one. There seems to be a little bit. He could be out for a few weeks at least. Um, Conor Gallagher came on. He got a good reception from the Stamford Bridge crowd, which was great to see. if Kante is out for a long time, do you think Connor can step up and take his place, or are you expecting maybe Chelsea to fast track this potential Frankie De Jong deal?
I think Gallagher, Gallagher, sorry, had a great season, with Palace, obviously slightly different, obviously different setup there. But I certainly think he can step into the team given the chance. I think, and the right, but if a little bit of luck and stuff like that and things go well, I think he can certainly become a good player and add a bit to our sort of, especially go to us going forward as well. Because, arguably, obviously, sometimes you think maybe he should play instead of Jorginho in certain games, but obviously it's Kante's the one who's gone out injured. But we don't always need to be so defensive. Sometimes I think like you've got those two, then it's good maybe just to switch it up a little bit and sometimes bring someone who's slightly more attacking minded and looking forward rather than more so on Jorginho's side, but looking forward rather than sideways or backwards, and trying to just break open or play between the lines and actually take us forward at a bit of a quicker pace. So yeah, I think it's good that he's come back in, and I think it's great that we've kept him this season, or it looks like we're going to obviously keep him for this season, and give him a chance to because if they're not given a chance, then we're never going to know, are we? In a way. So you've got to give them the opportunity if they look like they're ready to then perform, and then that's up to them if they take it or not, isn't it? And there's obviously been ones in the past that haven't taken it and been given lots of chances, but yeah, I think hopefully he will take his chance and become a regular and or feature in the first team squad regularly.
Now we'll move on to the bit where I didn't really want to go to, but we have to discuss it. The equaliser. Now, again, you was in the shed, so this was in your end. Before I start effing and jeffing, even thinking about what that snake of a ref did you notice at any point, did you feel at any point between where you was and then obviously when the goal happened that there was an issue between Romero and Cucurella and then the referee stopped it? Did you feel something was happening? Because initially on the telly, there seemed to have been like a potential VAR review because they were saying Cucurella first fouled Romero. So they were looking at a possible penalty. Then they were looking at a possible foul the other way. Was there a lot of confusion at the ground from that because of the issue? And again, we talked about it earlier. Why didn't he go to the pitch side monitor if he knew there was something wrong? Why didn't he go in to have a look? But initially, did you notice anything weird or strange that was going on before the subsequent corner that the goal took place?
It's sort of, you can see obviously there's a lot of argy-bargy going on, but it's quite difficult to see. Like when you're looking, we was like right around almost like the west, corner of the shed. So we're like on that wrap round bit. So you're looking across. Obviously, there's lots of players in the sort of line of sight. But yeah, once they went to VAR to review it, you've got no really idea what they're reviewing because they don't tell you, do they? There's like, I think it said review for possible. I think it said violent. I did think it did say violent conduct, but it doesn't tell you who it's against or what they're actually checking for. And that's one of the good things when if they actually mic'd up the referees, so you can actually hear what they're discussing in the stadium. You're sort of
Well, they
like
do it in
treated.
rugby,
Yeah, yeah.
and it
In the state,
works.
you feel like you're almost treated like a sort of second class citizen. On the TV, obviously, they probably you could see clearly, couldn't you? Obviously, what they were reviewing, and they're probably showing like replays. Well, I'm sure they were showing replays of it and stuff
They
like that.
showed a
But
few replays. They only showed replays of obviously the hair pull, which I
yeah,
think
yeah.
Cucurella's now bald from the amount of bloody hair that was being pulled from him. But they were only showing that, but they also showed the referee's position. And the fact that he's looking, whether he's staring at it or whether he's actually looking at it, is that I get that there could be two different things, but the fact of the matter is that his body shape is in line with the contact that's happening. Anywhere else on the pitch, that's a free kick. Anywhere else anywhere else in the street, that's you can get arrested for that sort of stuff. But according to the snake of a ref and Mike Dean in VAR, that's apparently acceptable now on a football pitch. It was bizarre to watch on telly, and bearing in mind what minute it was, I think it was like the 96th even I think maybe the 97th minute. The corner comes in and Kane scores from it, and you just felt at that point very deflated. But obviously, subsequently, what happened afterwards with Conte, whether he overreacted or not, that's another topic. But you've watched it back, Adam. I can't describe it without swearing too much, but how can you describe from what you saw as why that snake didn't give it as a foul?
I think that's like the impossible question, isn't it? Like you can, when you say I watched it back today, and you can clearly see that he's, looking in that direction. He's looking right at it. So, and to come out, I think I don't know where it's come from today, but they're coming out and saying, well, hair pulling isn't in the rules. Well,
I heard
okay,
that. Yeah, I heard
you
that as
know,
well. Yeah,
neither is punching someone in the face probably, but if you do that, you're going to get a red card. So
absolutely. Yeah,
it's like if you walked out, as you just said, if you walked out and done it in the street, then someone could probably have you up for assault. So
yeah,
why is it allowed on the football pitch? And I think going back, was it Robert Huth got done retrospectively for it, obviously a few years ago? I think was it on Fellaini, I
that's right.
believe, or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that. So why, the rules haven't changed as far as I'm aware since I'm not sure what year that was, obviously a few years ago now, but the rules haven't changed between then and now. So why was it a foul? And obviously the FA to retrospectively punish someone for it. It was looked at obviously in probably detail then. So how does that change? Apart from supposedly we're supposed to have better technology and obviously these things to processors to capture mistakes and stuff like that. So how do we end up with a worse, with an incorrect decision in this day and age like that? I don't know. But I think when you sort of go back, let's go past that court. That corner obviously should have been a free kick to us, obviously, and a red card. Then obviously we clear it probably, and the game's over. But obviously it didn't happen that way. And as a corner, and it's almost like we sort of, and I guess you can see why. It's like Chelsea almost switched off for a minute, probably with what happened. Everybody's obviously sort of tempers are quite high and stuff, and it's almost like we just switched off. And you're looking as like a couple of Spurs players who almost just didn't get picked up, and then obviously everybody knows what happens after that. It's in the back of the net, and they've got a point where they didn't deserve anything from that game, and it's frustrating to say the least.
Well, my question on this, and it's been bugging me all day, and I would love to know his stance on it. Is players on posts. Now, Adam, you've been a lover of football for many years. I've been a lover of football for many years. We was always taught by certain people, whether it was in PE or at football, you have people on the post, whether it's near post or far post. Normally, sort of as you sort of watch football and you get a better understanding, the goalkeepers normally want the near post free because that's their domain anyway. But they always want somebody far post. My issue, and this is why I don't. When the goal went in, I wasn't as angry about the decision with VAR or Harry Kane scoring. I was more upset with how we acted from that corner. The fact that James and Koulibaly are behind Mendy. Mendy's only looking at the ball. He thinks he's got his far post covered. He's stayed on his line, which is another thing I think if he did actually go out and punch the bloody ball, none of this would have happened. But James comes off the line, and Koulibaly is nowhere near trying to sort of defend it anyway. But they're both near the far post, and the ball's not exactly a bullet header; it trickles. If James is on the far post, there's no goal. If Koulibaly is near the far post, that ball does not go in. I was stunned when I saw it back a few times last night and I saw the positioning of James and Koulibaly to where Mendy was. I was stunned that none of them covered that back post. And I, for the life of me, still don't know why. Why does certain managers don't have people on posts? I do not know.
I think you've only got to look at I saw today as well, the West Ham Notts Forest game. I'm not sure if you saw that, but obviously they cleared one off the line, didn't they, right at the end of the game to obviously to win 1-0. So it's obviously proven that,
Yeah.
it's like you say, it's almost basics, isn't it? But is it that well, you would guess, obviously, like you say, he's not instructing them to cover the post on corners, but is that a Mendy thing that he doesn't want? Who knows? But it does seem
Well,
very
who's at
odd.
fault here? Is it Mendy? Is it players that are then marking zonally? Should they think automatically, if no one's in my space, should I actually cover the far post? Or is it Tuchel? Now, I'm not advocating I want Tuchel out by this comment, but I think Tuchel is at fault because there's been a few times where we've defended set plays, where we've defended corners, and there's people that are marking zonally, which is fine. There's another difference between zonal and man marking. We'll probably talk about for a good month about it. But have someone on the near post for crying out loud. It's simple, basic defending.
I think
The amount of
especially
goals that come in that are slash trickle in the far post because they know the goalkeeper can't get to it in time. Fuck. I mean,
especially when it's like the 96th minute and you 2-1
yes,
up, even more
yes.
so like that. That's, you know,
Or have a row of people on the
yeah,
bloody goal. Have a row of people on the goal line.
you've only got to keep it out for another 30 seconds. You've got three
Yes.
points, and it's just a bit of a no-brainer, really, isn't it? It doesn't seem to add up. As to who's at fault, obviously, yeah, that's a difficult one. And you could say probably it's a bit of a collective responsibility there, even if you've got obviously leaders. We're going back to before. You've got your leaders on the pitch. You would think you should, like, you've got people like Thiago Silva, who's obviously been there, done that, won everything, obviously apart from the European Cup, according to Jamie Redknapp. But like someone like that would just be. You've just got one task to do, and you just to finish the game. So whatever it takes to
Yes.
keep that ball out the net, you do it. But it does seem a bit odd just to not stick someone on there, like you say, and maybe if there was, obviously that goal doesn't go in. Um, but yeah, it's two things in it really. Like, we can obviously talk when we've talked about the decision, which is appalling, but you can only, like, they say you can only play what's put in front of you, but we can only play the game as the referee's done that decision. We can't change that, so we've got to then deal with that situation, and we haven't as well. So,
Hmm.
there's a bit of an onus on us, just purely looking at from the play, if you like, that we shouldn't be conceding that goal then at all.
Now there was a stat that came out on Sky yesterday that last season we only won 9 home games out of 19, which if you compare that to other seasons, that's pretty crap. We would drop points against teams that you wouldn't expect Chelsea to drop points to, and especially in injury time. A game against Brighton over the Christmas period, we were 1-0 up. We were playing poor for 90 minutes, and then we draw 1-1. We were 2-0 up against Wolves. Wolves come back to 2-2 last minute. This happens again yesterday against Tottenham. Do you think there's a bigger underlying issue here about we can't protect a lead? Is this a Tuchel thing? Is it how he sets his team up? Or is it a mental thing with the players, do you think? Because there's been too many dropped points at home, bearing in mind, again, the standard is up there where Man City and Liverpool are. We're trying to reach it. They don't concede late in 96th, 97th minute to sloppy goals. They don't. Simple as.
That's
Where do you see? Where do you see sort of that improving? Because for me, that should have been improved in the summer. If he knew there was issues with that, with dropping points. I mean, even against Brentford when we got spanked 4-1 and Ericsson had the game of his life and we couldn't deal with him, we would drop points against sides like that. Burnley at home as well last season. And it seems Tuchel hasn't changed a thing in terms of defensive shape from either set pieces or how they would be when the other team's got the ball. We just look the same. And that concerns me, bearing in mind he's had a whole summer. We're trying to close the gap between Man City and Liverpool because of the fact they've got strikers and we haven't. That worries me.
I think, yeah, you're not like. There's been a couple other people who sort of said to me, like, he seems sometimes slow to And don't get me wrong, I don't want to be like coming across that like we're bashing him because we're not. Obviously he's like what he's done for Chelsea is magnificent and he's a fantastic manager. But sometimes he's slightly slow to react to maybe changes that happen in the game, like bringing on subs and stuff. You think sometimes, okay, look at last week, we brought Brozier on like for 10 minutes at the end, but we've got 5 subs now, so sort of maybe utilize them a bit more. People are getting tired. It's the first, second game in the season. Bring someone else on, who's fresh legs, who can maybe is a bit more going to be a bit more switched on or a bit more engaged for that last 15, 20 minutes of the match. If people have run themselves, into the ground, why keep sort of persisting with the same, utilize the squad that we've got. I'm not saying that we've got a very, very deep squad, but we've also got, some good players who sit on the bench as well.
Well, he made 4 subs yesterday. Conor Gallagher, we already talked about. Azpilicueta came on for Jorginho. Brozier came on in the 90th minute. Why is he coming on in the 90th minute? I have no idea. And Pulisic came on for Sterling in the 85th. He still had maybe one more sub he could have used to kill time, which is what the best managers do. Tuchel did it last week against Everton.
Yeah. Yeah, and like at Everton, he came on for Brozier, like he came on for 10, was about 10, 12 minutes at
Yeah.
Everton.
And I thought
But
Brozier was brilliant.
yeah, that's what I
He
was going to
closed
say.
down lots of things. He was a runner. He
Working
caused a lot
really
of
hard.
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
put Chalobah on, put Chilwell on. Just wind the
yeah,
clock down. Yes, the referee might add on, but then
probably not the full time that you can waste,
no, of course not. No.
but knowing obviously Anthony Taylor, we probably would have got like,
Oh,
he
knowing
was
the
soon
snake,
to,
there
he
probably
would,
would have been another 3 minutes. Yeah,
he,
there would have been 10 minutes of injury time. But
he was soon to get the yellow card out for Mendy, weren't he? Like for time wasting, like really early on in the
oh, he
game.
was
But
quick with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yes.
but it
Oh
never
yes.
happens anywhere else, does it? Like that.
Speaking of cards being dished out, we'll talk about the main event, which was nearly the it was nearly the post match angle. Tuchel versus Conte. Now, I was asked by another podcast to come on and asked to get my view on what happened between Tuchel and Conte after the match, and a lot of people have had their say. Me, just very quickly, Adam, and I'll get your say as well. I didn't see nothing wrong with it, to be honest. I really didn't. Whether Conte didn't really want to shake his hand, you could tell that he just wanted to go towards his own supporters and thank them for turning up because normally Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. And Tuchel weren't happy with it. He said, "Look at me when I'm shaking your hand." But there was nearly some fisticuffs. Then you'd have 20, 30 people surrounding them, like bees to honey, and then Sky and Talk Sport and all the other bloody media companies try and make too much of it, saying that there's too much passion there, that needed to be stopped. It's not a good portrayal of the game, and blah 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 blah. Me personally, I saw nothing wrong with it. I saw two managers that are winners. They want to win. They know that each other's a rival because they're trying to get to the standard, which is Man City and Liverpool. And obviously, they ruffled each other's feathers by maybe over celebrating goals. Obviously, you didn't have a great view of it because I can imagine where you was in the shed lower. It wasn't probably the perfect sort of advantage point to look at. But what was your point of view looking at it at the time and watching it back?
I think you want to see that. You want to see like passion for your manager, don't you? If he walks off like laughing after we've just conceded in the last minute to draw, then there's something obviously not quite right. So to show that he's, really like obviously bought into the club and feels a
The
connection
Chelsea
with it.
DNA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And he obviously knew how big a game that was for the fans as well to win. And yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. Obviously, like Conte, like it's a gentleman. At the end of the day, when you shake someone's hand, whatever the game is finished. I know the emotions are running high, but managers always shake hands, don't they? Apart from maybe the odd one or two haven't over the years, but it's like a
Certain
gentleman.
Mourinho
Yeah,
and certain other managers, yeah.
but it's like a gentleman's thing to do at the end of the
Yeah.
game, isn't it? You go over and shake hands and like sort of that's it, and that's the end of it, And he didn't have to give him a hug, did he? But if he could just have looked him in the eye, shook his hand, and walked off, then that would have been the
No,
end of
you
it.
weren't
But
expecting them to hug and
no,
exchange numbers
exactly,
like you might do on a date or whatever, but
no,
you would still expect a little bit of respect. I had no
exactly,
issues. I had no issues with Conte celebrating the goals because that's Conte. I had no,
yeah.
I, again, Conte did that with us, and he pissed off Mourinho by doing it.
Yeah, well, he was in the East Lower, when he with a couple of times when we'd scored, he was in there with the fans almost,
Yes,
Conte when
so
he's and again, like if he's for you, then as in your team, then that's what you love to see,
that's
don't
what
you?
you want. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And
exactly. Yeah,
Tuchel done the same thing the other, yesterday by running down the touchline, a la Jose. Everyone seems to copy Jose as a manager. I wonder why. But anyway, both of them got a red card because of alleged argy-bargy. I mean, come on, it's a, as Graham Souness would say, it's a man's game. But it was two men that were pissed off. What else would you expect? I'm hoping the red cards are rescinded and both managers are in their respective dugouts this weekend. We've got Leeds United away, which will be an interesting one, and I think Spurs have got Wolves on Saturday. You just made the point, Adam. That's what you want from your managers.
yeah.
You want there's difference between passion and people go over excitement. Tuchel has shown in the the tenure that he has been with us that he's not somebody that's going to lie down and let his belly and bollocks get tickled by other people. And you can just see the difference in the mindset of clubs. And I don't listen to TalkSport anymore because they've changed the setup and you've now got Jamie O'Hara there as a predominant pundit. Why, I don't know, because he talks a lot of shit. But anyway, there's a difference between a team like ours and a team like Tottenham. Tottenham, it doesn't matter about their. I've been to their training ground on other business, and it's a fabulous training ground. I've been to their ground as a Chelsea away supporter as well. It's a good ground. They will not win any major trophies for the next 10 years, and I know why, because they still have a small club mentality. You might not have seen it because you might have either been leaving the ground, or I know other people was, but I had it on Sky. I muted it because I didn't really want to hear what the pundits had to say. But you saw the Spurs fans, the Spurs players and the England captain celebrating with the fans like they've won the league.
You've only got to listen to his interview, haven't you? When he said, great to score a last minute winner. Obviously, that's how they treat it, don't they? That's like
Yes.
a win for them. It's like, but like you say, that is just a different mentality, isn't it? You're even brought in Chelsea DNA is like it's to win. Like that's what matters. Like to win, it's the 3 points, it's the trophies, not like okay, it's great to score a last minute goal. Of course it is. Like we'd love to do it at their place and win, but to come back from a draw, you don't celebrate it like you've won the Champions League and make
No.
a DVD about it that will be coming out
No.
next week probably.
Oh God, my God! Could you imagine? They're probably sorting out the discs now about bloody, how we won that battle. I mean, come on, it's a load of bollocks. But I just thought it was very. It just showed the difference. Chelsea were pissed off because it's not because they dropped 2 points; it's because they didn't beat shit.
Yeah, they knew
We
they're there
did
for the
not beat a
taking.
Spurs side who people feared before the game started that Spurs might roll us over. And because of how Spurs have played and what they've done in the summer transfer window, we made them look like Tottenham. We made them look ordinary for
It's happened
much of
again
that
as what
game
they.
yesterday.
It's
We're the
happened again as
champions of, yeah, we've been the champions of Europe. They've been the champions of Tottenham. It's nothing. And the fact that you had Spurs players, if I was a Chelsea player and I saw that, I would pity them.
yeah, yeah, because
I
it's like
would really pity them because they celebrated like that. They celebrated that like they won the league, and that's sad.
you can just tell like if you think if you've hit a peak by doing that, then to then go on and you know get success, then it's not going to happen, is it? Because it's already like that's how they're treating it. Like in that moment, it's like
Yeah.
for them like a big massive deal, to come there and get a point.
Do
But I
you
think it's
remember Chelsea doing that, a last minute equaliser, whether it's away or home, and then they would act like that? I mean, people, I did speak about this to a couple of Tottenham fans, and then they started saying, "Oh, you did that when we played you and Leicester won the league." There was a difference. There was a
Yeah,
title on the line.
we stopped them winning the league. So
We stopped them. We stopped them from potentially winning the league because then it was Leicester's, and it was in May. We was having a shit season, and we were two. There's a difference. Was we were 2-0 down, and it looked like there was no hope in sight that we was gonna get anything from that game.
we actually won that
That's
game, didn't we? Anyway, 3-2,
no. We,
wasn't it? Was
we
it
drew.
3-2?
We came 2-0 down. 2-0 down. It was 2-2.
The 2-2 at the end. For
Yeah.
some reason, I had in my head that Hazard scored a goal and it was 3-2, but yeah, it
No,
was obviously 2-2.
Cahill scored. It was both goals were done in the shed. Cahill scored sort of in the early stages of the second half, and then Hazard scored that beauty, and all hell broke loose, and that's
I was
when
like,
people started to try and poke Costa's eye out. And again, the referee didn't do anything on that game. I wonder why, but.
going to say, if they thought yesterday was like over the top, then they should remember that match, the way the Tottenham players, conduct themselves on that day,
Yes,
stamping on people and other things.
yes. So, as a sort of final review, just to sort of close this up, Adam, because we could be talking for hours about this particular game, but a lot of people were concerned with how we would play or how we would get on with Tottenham, based on what you saw. And I know it's early days; we're only in August. Do you believe we will finish above Tottenham this season based on just what you saw for 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think we will. I think, don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of improvement to be had there, and I think you can take a lot of sort of heart, if you like, from look at the difference last week to this week. The performance at Everton to yesterday was, I thought, sort of big improvement on that. But yeah, I think even if they do get ahead of us, they'll bottle it towards the end of the season anyway. So,
well, they're Tottenham. They always bottle it. Oh my God, they could start a chain of bottles. Just say we're bottlers, but
so we're definitely, realistically, it's going to be. I think it's going to be third, isn't it? We're still a little way apart from Man City and Liverpool.
Yes,
unfortunately.
Well, they have a striker. There's a difference.
Well, yeah. We've just got to keep working on it, and hopefully we can actually find someone who can score us, say, 25-ish goals a season.
And I did say I did message a few people with this, and I even did put it on a sort of a group chat. And I've even said this today to people who I work with and things. There could be a lot worse. We could be Man United.
Yeah.
It could be worse. Yes, we didn't beat Tottenham. Yes, Tottenham are celebrating like they've won the league. But at least we're not bottom. And all them people that thought Pogba was the problem. Anyway.
So it goes a lot deeper than that.
It goes a hell of a lot deeper than that. You just have to look at the ownership and possible players, and their possible captain. But thank you everyone for joining us here on the Blue Day podcast this week. Adam, before we go, for those that are interested in joining your particular supporters group that are from the area, plug your supporters group for us. You've got about a minute.
Yeah, so we're obviously the Eastern Blues based up in Norfolk and Suffolk. If you want to sort of join us and come along to some games and meet up with us all, just go on our website, easternblues.co.uk, and you've got all the information on there, or social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just search us and drop us a message.
And you can find us as well on Instagram at the Blue Day Podcast. And also, Adam, I don't know whether you are aware of this, we're back on Twitter. We have got our Twitter account finally sorted. We are at the Blue Day Pod. Don't put the cast in. We are at the Blue Day Pod. Find us on Twitter. We're uploading all our episodes that we've done with ex-players, with certain videos as well of me over-celebrating, but hey, I'm a fan, so I can get away with it, of goals. And find us on there as well. Find us on Facebook at the Blue Day Podcast. And thank you again for joining us this week. Next week, we're hopefully going to review a Chelsea win away against Leeds United, which a certain host of a podcast is going to. But we'll be talking about that more next week. But I have been Keith Lawrence. Thank you to my guest, Adam. Stay safe and carefree.